Commission, and I'll go into what the Western Development Commission is in a few minutes. I worked previously for 20 years in Mayo County Council as an IT project leader, so I worked on networks and infrastructure there, and I worked on digital development and the National Broadband Plan for the last 2 years. And 6 months ago, I moved to the Western Development Commission to work on a job around enterprise hubs. So I'll just give you a little bit of background first on what the Western Development Commission is, because to be honest, before I started researching for the role, I didn't know much about it. I had a vague understanding of it. The Western Development Commission is a statutory government body. It was established in the 1990s, and it was a response to the population decline in the West. Its remit is the promotion of promotes social and economic development in the West region. So we have a new CEO, Tomas Oshiman, and he joined there about 13-14 months ago, and he's developed a new strategy along these 3 pillars: regional promotion, regional leadership and sustainable enterprise. So in terms of digital marketing, that Look West has been our customer facing website. So we've taken on a new head of PR and communications, Alan Mulrooney is his name. He's looking after all that, so he's going through a process of updating that and basically revamping all our digital offerings. Under regional leadership, that's where I fall under, so that's the AEC and the EU project, or the AEC, and we also have a policy team there, I should mention, and their remit is to monitor government policy for the West, feed into government policy and advise on it. And we have a huge bank of research done for the last 20 years. So in terms of remote working, Deirdre Frost has been doing papers on this for the last 20 years. So a lot of research available there on the WC Insights blog if you want to ever look that up. We also have an EU projects department, and that's headed by a guy called Ian Brannigan. And that's where it's been really like a test lab for new ideas. So Ian runs that very successfully. He has a number of different projects on the go there in Europe. And sustainable enterprise is something that anybody involved in enterprise or starting up their own business may be familiar with, and that's the WIF, the Western Investment Fund. So that's a fund consisting of about 32 million at the moment in the bank. It's an evergreen fund. And since I suppose it's something where probably the WC was probably most famous for. Just to give you some stats, and since the WC was incorporated, this is some of the impact that it's had in the region that maybe we weren't familiar with. So they offer, they don't offer grants, they offer loans, or they take equity in your business depending on how you present. They also provide microloans to the community. Now I'm not going to talk about it as if I know that much about it, because there's a whole team working on that, and it's not really my area, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of background about what WC is about. Now, what is the AEC? Atlantic Economic Corridor. It doesn't roll off the tongue, but this is where my project fits in under. And what this is really about, it's part of Government Ireland 2040, Project Ireland 2040, which is the national planning framework for the next 20 years for the country. So the AEC is referenced in that. It's an attempt to address the imbalance between development in the east and the west of the country. It consists of 9 counties, going from Donegal all the way down to Kerry. There's a small glitch in it. The WC are the coordinating body for any activity that's going to take place in the AEC, but our remit goes as far as Donegal to Clare. It doesn't include Limerick and Kerry at the moment. So we're working on getting that, overcoming that obstacle. It's for me really, it's a collaboration project. At the moment we're working with a group of consultants to develop a strategy for the AEC. And so what we're doing at the moment, we're meeting with all the various stakeholders from Enterprise Ireland, the local authorities, IDA, hub managers, hub owners, community groups up and down the region to get their feedback into the strategy and help develop a coherent plan for the next 3 years. For me, it's really a collaboration project. It's an opportunity for all the entities, organisations in the area to work together and to share knowledge. So one of those projects that I'm working on is the AEC Enterprise Hubs project. So this is about creating a network out of the 114 hubs that are up and down the region. And before we began this process, my colleague Pauline Leonard, who's here in the audience today, she had done a huge bank of research into the hubs, and that formed the body of the paper that was referenced earlier by Professor Zone. Most of their research is based on what came out of that. So there's 140 of these hubs in the network. We have a network of buildings, but we don't have any integration between the two of them. They don't talk to each other. They operate in silos. So there's no sharing of best practice. There's no sharing of in the more urban areas there might be, but where this is really going to have impact is out in the rural areas. So the project is essentially going to connect all these people together, connect all these communities together. It's being coordinated with the WWC, as I said. It's got an initial budget of 1 million from the Dormant Accounts Fund. That might seem like a lot of money, but it's not when you start breaking it down. It's an initiative of the Department of Rural and Community Development. So we're going through a period now, kind of a holding period now, where the government is about to change, or may change. So but we're still ploughing away with our work. It's a 3-year project, but in reality, from the work we've done so far, we're going to be delivering an awful lot of it in the first 18 months. In terms of a team to help deliver on it, as I mentioned earlier on, we have Alan Mulrooney, Head of Communications, myself, Pauline Leonard, who's here in the audience today, and Karen Sweeney working on it from WC's perspective. So we're working on the hubs and any other AEC projects. We then have a team of AEC officers, and these are based in the local authorities. So they're part funded by the Department of Rural and Community Development. Mary Rafter has joined us here, she's in the audience as well, so she's the Mayo County Council AEC officer. So these are essential to the success of any of those projects, because they know exactly what's happening on the ground. So at the moment, we're developing a strategy. We had 2 events in November there where we had all the major stakeholders in the room down in Limerick and again in Sligo, both sides of the Atlantic Economic Corridor, and we're developing a plan around these 3 areas here. So infrastructure, community network, marketing, promotion. The infrastructure, for me, that's really about providing a suite of back office ICT systems to help the hub managers manage their hubs, but also to allow them to connect together. It should facilitate shared calendars, event management, biz mentoring, and also a CRM system to capture the activity within the hubs, so that when these hubs are applying for funding, they are able to report accurately on what's going on within their hubs. The community network, that's about networking, the ecosystem that happens when you start connecting these major hubs that are in the big urban centres, like the Portership, for example, the Innovation Centre down here. When you start connecting those out into the more rural areas, like Belmullet, where I'm from, or Sneem, County Kerry, when those small hubs start seeing the benefit of being connected into a community with lots of activity, lots of events, gurus in various subjects coming to talk and give talks on, I think that we believe that that's going to have a major impact. Marketing and promotion, this is Alan's area. So that's about, at the moment, there's very little opportunity for the small hubs, the rural hubs, to promote themselves and market themselves. You can have a hub in a rural community, and people in that community don't even know what it does. They just think it's community centre, perhaps. If they never step inside that door, they might realise it has its workspaces, it has a manager there perhaps that's trained in providing help and assistance around startups or running incubation programs, or even running events. So that strategy is underway and will be launched by the end of Q1 2020. So in terms of the AEC, there's long-term and the short to medium-term projects. I would consider this a short to medium-term project. So this is something something you're going to see in the next 18 months being available and promoted and marketed. So I suppose it's probably slots under, in terms of this event today, it probably slots under opportunity. So just something to keep an eye on there. What it's going to be is basically, the customers base we're going after is people who are working remotely, that perhaps they're working from home, and maybe if they were working out of a hub, perhaps it might give them that opportunity to mix and network. And Ailish Irvine is here in the audience today. She runs her own business, and she'll be able to talk to you. I recommend you grab her for a coffee. She'll tell you the difference between working from home and working out of a hub. She can make a direct correlation between her business growing from working in the hub as vis-a-vis working from home. We're also looking at digital nomads, the gig economy, students, the community itself, all those the cohorts will be catered for through the network. So what will the project do? It will establish the hub network. As I said, the ICT systems are key to the whole thing. If you can manage, at the moment there is various systems for keeping track of what's going on in the hubs, from spreadsheets up to very sophisticated systems and everything in between. There'll be promotion and marketing on the hubs, a plan around that. Training and business development skills for the hubs. This is key because from our consultation events and from the research that Pauline had done, what was coming out very, very strong was hubs that had full-time managers were really successful, they were doing really well. The hub managers are really the magic sauce. They're the ones that create the vibrancy around the hub, and they're the ones that are looking at the opportunities and driving it on. So we have to grapple with hubs that have no managers, or managers maybe on a part-time basis. So we have to come up with a strategy for maybe the concept of a regional manager, for example, has been thrown around. Somebody who in an area who can manage 2 or 3 hubs, so they're in a hub 2 or 3 days, and they're in another hub another couple of days. That's all being workshopped at the moment. Yes. Another thing that came out very strongly from our things was access to funding. There's various different funding streams coming out of government. Enterprise Ireland have their streams, Department of Rural and Community Development have a number of different funding streams. There's leader funding. And how do you navigate that? And what do you qualify or what do you not qualify? And what should you go after and how should you be doing it? There's a huge emphasis now on any funding application on collaboration. So just upskilling the people that are applying for those funds to be able to help them navigate that funding puzzle. Why are we doing it? Because as I said, we conducted this report and we found that a significant number of the hubs have very, very low occupancy rates. They have limited strategy, as I mentioned earlier, there's no sharing of best practice, no centralised ICT systems, and they have access to funding. Varied participation in events, and that's a key thing. Where hubs are plugged into other larger hubs and they're sharing events, there's huge momentum in those hubs, there's a lot of activity around them. So that's why we're doing it. We also see from the customer base that we're looking at there, we see that there's a growing demand for these in the community. If we can get businesses, and this is part of the long-term strategy, if we can get businesses maybe that haven't adopted flexible working arrangements, if we can get them to consider it, and then we can offer them this hub network, which will be of a certain standard. We're going to insist on having certain standards in the hubs so that if our customers do turn up at the hubs, they know exactly what they're going to get when they get there. I'm not going to use the star rating that hotels use, but when you go onto the website, you book a co-working space or a hot desking space, when you go in there, you know in confidence it's going to be high-speed broadband, it's going to be, there's going to be coffee and tea facilities, there's going to be common areas in it, and there's going to be a manager in there to meet and greet you, or some way to let you in and out of the building, and the flexible hours to enter and use the building. So we feel if you can bring that story to, say, employers on the East Coast who haven't considered flexible working arrangements, and use that to maybe consider offering flexible working arrangements to their staff, because companies on the East Coast, well indeed in any huge urban area now, they want to hold on to their high value employees. It's an employees market out there at the moment, and if they're sick of commute times, congestion, getting up at mad hours in the day to drop kids off to childcare, etc. If they got to work, let's say a couple of days in the local hub, their manager or their employers might consider, we believe they will consider adopting that, because they want to hold on to them. It's a huge investment now to lose a person and take someone else on. It's been estimated nearly for a mid-management type role, it's 25,000 is a figure actually being put on that. So we believe we have an opportunity here with the Hubs project to sell this as an alternative to working in a 9-to-5 office scenario that we've all become familiar with. So the key findings, this is what we workshopped at the events, so when the strategy is launched, it won't look completely alien to people. Infrastructure, funding, business development and remote working were workshopped at the events. Obviously funding was the #1 theme, but when you delved into that a little deeper, management and payment of managers for these, because you can't have a manager for every hub, it's not possible. So we have to come up with a solution to that. There's been ideas thrown forth that maybe we'll consider it on post with the closing of post offices, other ideas like that. So the WC is the coordinating body or exec for the hubs project at the moment. That was seen as a positive because you have, you used to have a coordinating body that is the remit up and down the AEC area. Technology to develop the network, although it didn't feature very highly at the beginning, as the discussions progressed, it came out very, very strongly. So that's the hubs project in a nutshell. Before we began this work, if you look on the left-hand side here, you'll see the number Clare, 3 hubs, now 11. This is what everyone thought was out there, and this is what we thought was out there, and that's what some of the local authorities thought was out there. So it's grown from those numbers up to 114 hubs now at the moment. So that's the Enterprise Hubs program. That's basically the end of my talk, Noreen, on this. So if anybody has any questions, as I said, we're very much in the planning phases at this moment. A lot of the problems that we haven't considered are being teased out at the moment. So if I don't have all the answers,